Katy Perry is a pop star who was out of the limelight for a reasonable amount of time, like quite a long time in the pop world, until this year she decided to attempt a career comeback, which has involved faux feminist flops, working with known predatory producers, and some questionable interviews, the most recent of which was on the Call Her Daddy podcast, and this whole thing is what we're going to be discussing today. It's not as heavy as some of my videos have been recently, but I'm trying to stay away from that for a while and just focus on things that are a little bit lighter and more manageable. So not so long ago, on July the 12th, 2024, Katy Perry released her first single in 4 or so years. This was titled Woman's World, and according to Katy, it's supposed to be this feminist anthem, right? The final product wasn't quite what she hoped though, as it pandered more towards the male gaze than actually doing anything to subvert it. Music and art has always featured women and their sexuality, and showing a celebration of a woman embracing and being empowered by her sexuality can be a really powerful thing. I mean, I'm not a fan of the song, but just look how upset silly little boys like Ben Shapiro got about songs like WAP.
And I'm going to read you some of the lyrics to WAP, which stands for a thing. Right here, what we are watching is women fighting for the equal right to talk about their wet-ass P-word. Like, I'm serious, that these women are suffering from some sort of serious, a bucket and a mop? This sounds like there's something that is going on here that is not biologically normal. It frankly sounds like somebody describing what amounts to a serious condition that requires the care of a doctor.
It really, really got to him, because apparently a woman being okay with her sexuality, celebrating it, being proud of it, making music about it, that's just not appropriate, is it? It doesn't always have to be that explicit or even about sex, though. There are so many songs which have really strong feminist messages and empower women. Look all the way back to Leslie Gore's You Don't Own Me, Kesha's Woman, Robots in Disguise as Girl, Bikini Kill's Rebel Girl, Lizzo's Good as Hell, and that's barely scratching the surface or mentioning the thousands of smaller independent artists and songs out there. There is so much feminist music out there, it's amazing. Sadly, Woman's World just wasn't one of them. Woman's World ended up sounding more like some man just came along and typed into ChatGPT how to appeal to feminists in a pop song, and then tried to hit a bunch of talking points on that list without really understanding it or actually writing for real women. It's full of condescending lyrics like sexy, confident, so intelligent, she is heaven sent, so soft, so strong, fire in her eyes, feminine divine, she was born to shine, to shine, to shine. Yeah. And of course the attempt at a hook, which is, it's a woman's world and you're lucky to be living in it. But is it a woman's world, Katy? Is it really? When millions of female children are still having their genitals mutilated every year, when millions of women are murdered at the hands of men all around the world, including in some countries like Honduras, where the impunity rate is as high as 90%. That means 90% of men there murder women and just get away with it. Is it a woman's world? How about the fact that most medical research is only done on men or on women when their hormones make them most like men? How about the fact that average products are often catered towards the average man and not women? And when it comes to things like safety products and safety procedures and safety equipment and clothing, that puts women in danger. Look at car safety features. Most of them are geared towards the average man, which means if a man and woman get into the same car accident, the woman is far more likely to be seriously injured. What about the fact that women are still the most likely by a long, long way to be victims of domestic violence, sexual harassment, and sexual assault? How about the fact there are numerous countries around the world where women are not even allowed to leave the house without a chaperone? They can't drive a car, they can't go to the doctors by themselves, they can't have their own bank accounts. Is it really a woman's world? Are we really lucky to be living in this? No, of course not. It's a tone-deaf statement, especially when paired with the imagery, which it feels like Katy was trying to go for so sexy it's empowering, but ended up just being like, let's pander to some sexist men. Katy isn't wearing the tiniest bikini and pushing her breasts together to empower herself or other women. She's doing it because she knows that in the past, sex has made her music sell and she's gonna keep doing it. And she's not waving around vibrators suggestively because she actually cares about female orgasms and female sexuality and celebrating it. She's doing it simply because she was sponsored by the company, and apparently it's some checklist now where vibrators equal feminism. It's not. And I say this as someone who is sponsored by a company who makes vibrators. Not in this video, but in other videos. Like, and I work with them because it's something that I genuinely care about and genuinely believe in. But in this case, it just feels like, ooh, let's be controversial and wave around a vibrator for the sake of it, instead of it actually being empowering. In the video, she depicts herself as a blow-up doll, some kind of bionic horsewoman who needs to top herself up with petrol via her bum cheek, and a ditzy girl just trying to put makeup on in a monster truck. All of which Katy has argued is an attempt at satire, but I'd just like to respond by directing Katy and her entire creative team to my video on parody and satire to explain what that actually is, because this video is not it. You can't just do stereotypical things and objectify women and play into the male gaze without any real pushback or critique of it and pretend it's satire when you're just doing the thing. The only thing that is ever actually mocked in this music video is being a woman. And if all this wasn't bad enough, then this song and a number of others from her upcoming album were produced by Dr. Luke, the man accused of drugging and raping Kesha, and he has some other allegations against him from other women too. I adore Kesha. I think she's great. I fully believe her and I'm on her side in this. And I'm sorry, but you can't call your song a feminist anthem and pretend it's all about empowering women and, you know, even empowering them sexually when you're literally working alongside someone who has been accused of rape and sexual assault. Like, that's not empowering to women. That's not feminist. That's not empowering women's sexuality. That's just silencing victims. Someone finally decided to directly question Katy on this choice to work with Dr. Luke in a recent podcast, which was the Call Her Daddy podcast, and her answer is honestly disappointing. There is nothing to it, no substance. She doesn't actually address anything. It's just really, really frustrating to see. So I thought we would go through some of the podcast clips and just kind of discuss them. On the whole, I don't really have a huge amount to say. It's not like every word out of her mouth was so terrible and we should all be disgusted. It's just a lot of it was frustrating. There's some cringy bits that I'm going to have a lighthearted giggle at. There's some bits where I actually thought she was talking sense and making some really good points, and then she'd say something else and disappoint me. And then there's two bits in particular that I have a real problem with, one of them being the Dr. Luke clip. So let's watch this together. Now, the Call Her Daddy podcast, I'd heard the name before, but didn't know anything about it. I'd not seen it. So this was an experience for me. The host is a woman called Alex. She's the one interviewing Katy. And I have since learned things about Alex that I'm like, oh, maybe she's not such a nice person, and a lot of drama and greed at the background to the podcast. It's crazy. But that's not going to cloud our judgment here. I'd already written my notes before I found all that stuff out. So, yeah, let's just have a watch. Oh, the other thing is, like, listen to how this starts, right?
What is up, Daddy Gang? It is your founding father, Alex Cooper.
Here we are. Katy Perry, welcome to Call Her Daddy.
Thank you.
I am so happy
My
we're
first
doing
question
this.
for you.
Oh my God. She's already turning the tables. No.
Is how edible are these? Are they a prop?
They are edible.
They are.
They are
Do
edible.
you refill them?
We do refill them, but I don't know the last time that I've refilled them. But I eat from them, and I eat the blue mostly. What is your favorite Sour Patch color?
Blue and red.
Blue and red.
Yeah.
I'm a blue and kind of freak. Like, I'm a green girl.
Now, I'm not an adamant podcast listener. I listen to Do We Know Them religiously, I will say that, and I will occasionally listen to stuff like Red Web or They Walk Among Us if I'm like at the gym or walking somewhere or something, but I don't really listen to podcasts. But are they all this dull? I don't know, sometimes I feel like this is why I'll never be properly successful on YouTube by, like, you know, like compared to this Alex person, because like clearly I have no idea what people actually want to watch. This is literally just like several minutes of talking about sweets, a black screen with generic music, and then horoscope nonsense, and that's the entire introduction. And I'm like, when does it get interesting? Spoiler, it doesn't get interesting. It doesn't.
What is your star sign?
Scorpio. 5 times. So all of my risings, moons, all that.
What does that mean? Can you give us like the Scorpio rundown?
Well, I'm kind of a cusp Scorpio with Libra. So Libra, to me, and this is my paraphrasing, there's a lot of other people that are much better at this. than I'm going to even give you right now. Libras are the arts, liberation. And so I feel very connected to that. And Scorpios are like really intuitive. That's like our secret power is intuition. And being 5 Scorpios in one, it's like when I walk into a room, that's why I was kind of like, we were talking before this and I was looking I was just getting all these context clues. All that is information for me.
Interesting.
To know what kind of person, how far I can go, am I safe?
Yeah.
Are they good? Are they here with me? All that.
That's not being a Scorpio, love. That's called being human. We all do it.
I like to see what your next steps are. I'm invested, especially in like an alpha female, a female that is self-sufficient, that's taking the lead. I resonate with all of that.
You know, I actually used to really like Katy Perry and her music. And I was a fan. I even liked the album Witness. The last one, I think it was called Smile. Didn't like that. That was boring. But I even liked Witness. I thought there were some really fun songs on there. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. And I thought that maybe this whole woman's world thing and working with I keep wanting to say Dr. Phil, Dr. Luke, I thought it was like maybe a blip. Something she would learn from and grow from, and maybe she wasn't actually a crappy person. But all this talk about alpha females, it just... No. Can we not?
Authenticity is really important to me. I kind of grew up in a non-authentic childhood.
Again, this is kind of like a nothing thing, and this isn't a serious point, but it confuses the hell out of me because I always thought, like, well, what I liked about Katy Perry was it always felt like she was playing this silly, tongue-in-cheek character who was like putting on a ditzy girl front, and that wasn't really her, and she was like subverting these kind of stereotypes and like playing a role, and it was all very lighthearted and silly. And I would have said that authentic was the last word to describe Katy Perry and her music. I was like, it's the opposite of that. It's all a character, it's all a front. And here she has been like, yeah, I'm like really authentic. I value being authentic. Like, I'm like, have I just been reading this wrong the whole time? Have I been giving her the benefit of the doubt when I just shouldn't have? It's kind of a little bit upsetting, and it almost like taints her older music because I'm like, oh, was this not a character? Is this just who she is? I don't know.
Right. Should we acknowledge my dog that's here?
I don't know
if we should. It's a real dog.
Oh my God.
This is Nugget.
Nugget.
All of my fans know her, but if you don't know her, her name is Nugget, and she's almost 10 years old. She is a permanent puppy.
Okay, the dog is cute though. The dog gets 5 stars immediately. I have no complaints about the dog. Then there's a section where Katy credits a lot of her success and the things she's loved working on to having a great team around her. That's really lovely to hear. We love that. No complaints about that.
I wanted to kind of just like establish all of this to anyone who like didn't know. And I knew you came from a religious background, but then one of your first giant hits is I Kissed a Girl.
Yeah.
Which is a complete departure from what we're talking about. How did this song come to be? Because I can imagine like, what did your family think? Tell me everything.
My sister told them that it was coming out. I was like, you got to deliver the message. I moved to LA when I was 17, and it was just a whole different perspective. Boom. I met different people. I'm like, oh, you're not a bad person.
Right.
I grew up thinking you were this way.
Mm-hmm.
I was taught this way. Oh, you're not. So I saw more humanity. And then even like traveling around the world, once I had my success, I was like, whoa, these cultures believe in this, and this is how they work, and all this education and all this oneness I feel from really observing people and getting to know them. That was my education. Yeah. At 17, and like, that's when really my sexuality started, and experimenting and like not having as many rules and restrictions. I had those experiences, and then I sang about them.
You know, this whole section here is something that I wish they'd expanded on and talked about a bit more, because I think it could be really interesting. This idea of going from quite a conservative, maybe slightly Fundy-esque background to, you know, this crazy world of pop and music and celebrity and that sort of thing. I wish there'd been maybe more of a focus on that, and maybe some more in-depth questions about that. I feel like the interviewer wasn't really prepared. She hadn't maybe done her research on like what those kinds of childhoods are really like, and so she didn't know what questions to ask. But I feel like that could have been something really interesting to look at further, and that's something I'd have been interested in hearing about further, you know? But it is nice to hear Katy talking about, like, you know, this education, this learning, this understanding new stuff about new people. I just think it would be great if she could put some of that energy into learning about modern feminism and the things she's trying to talk about now, yeah? Because the way it stands with the content she's putting out and the things she's saying and the music she's putting out and the messages she's trying to send, it feels like she's regressed a bit and she's actually just playing into these stereotypes of what people think feminists are rather than what feminists actually think. It is interesting, actually, because you know how when I speak about a lot of fundies, so when I've spoken about Solly Asario, when I've spoken about Carissa Collins, even the girls from Girl Defined, they always seem to think that feminists just think feminism is going out, having sex all the time, getting drunk all the time, being overly sexual all the time. It's just like they think this, everything is okay, sleep with everyone constantly, as many people as you can, because that's what feminists think is empowering. And in reality, it's like that's not what feminism's about. It's about choice, you know, freedom of choice, equality of opportunity. But it kind of feels like Katy is portraying feminism as what fundies think it is, and that's actually quite an interesting thing, isn't it? Like, is she still in that awkward well, no, because she's so much older now. Apparently she left this fundy lifestyle at like 17, and now I think she said she's 39 in this clip, so that should be plenty of time to educate yourself on what feminism actually is. I don't know, I'm trying to make excuses for her, I'm trying to find reasons, and I just can't. Anyway, I also got a BetterHelp ad in the middle of this podcast, so that's not great. Yeah, BetterHelp's a thing. You know, I was absolutely taken in by the BetterHelp thing like 6 years ago. I worked with them once, I think, and I thought what they were doing was really, really great, and I really, really liked it. And then all this stuff came out about, you know, their unethical practices and non-licensed therapists and that sort of thing, and just what an absolute nightmare they are. And obviously you learn from that and you don't work with them again. And I feel like BetterHelp is one of the sponsors where it's so well known how bad they are. There's kind of no excuse to be working with them at this stage. It's so easy to see why so many of us were taken in by them years ago and trusted them. But I feel like at this point, this many years on, why are you working with them? I don't know. Anyway. Then there's what I think could be an interesting discussion, and this is one of the big points that I really, really want to talk about, right? So Katy starts talking about like red flags in relationships and that sort of thing, and a lot of what she says is really good stuff. And one of the points that keeps coming up repeatedly in a number of clips is this idea of like the problem with dating men who are intimidated by your success and men who somehow want to put you down because you're more successful than them and that sort of thing. And I think that's a really interesting topic to talk about. That's something I would have liked to see discussed more. And she does start, and at times there are good little nuggets in there.
Some of my alpha-ing, which is now a lot more in balance, is maybe a reaction to all of that. Like, oh, we didn't grow up with money, I'm gonna make it. Let's go. Because I'm never gonna be in this position. I don't want to feel this feeling again. But I'm aware of that now, right?
Interesting.
I chose someone like Orlando because there was a lot more equal energy there, and he wasn't intimidated by the power, and yeah, he wasn't
intimidated.
shook.
No, I have so many questions when we get to that of like dating a man that is intimidated by a woman's success is such an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. Anyone that won't show up for you, like I was in a relationship at one point where they never came to anything that I did. I was on a big tour. They never came to one show, like not one. And it was like, really? Like this, they just won't show up for, I don't know what reason that was. They just couldn't handle me in boss mode of sorts, quite possibly. And yeah, those are some red flags.
I want to ask you another question that you mentioned about, you know, being a boss and being so successful and how intimidating that can be to partners. And I'm sure, like you kind of just mentioned, you've been in relationships where and I've been in it where I've dated guys that I'm like, oh my God, you're so intimidated by my success.
And they don't even know how to verbalize it.
And for a minute, if you're not in the best place, like I've been there where I, for a moment, was like, oh, should I dim myself more? Should I
I've
maybe
been
not?
there. I have dimmed.
Right?
I have dimmed.
You dim because you're like, you can't see it immediately.
You also want to play the game, play a role.
not be too much. So you're like, okay, like maybe I should take off this day so he feels. But
And now I'm taking up space, bitch. I'm taking up space.
And it's like, you can't win with those people. And I feel like it's hard with the...
There's one girl listening and she's like, they're talking to me. I have to go.
And I like that, and I support that, and I think it's great. But then it just evolves into stuff like this.
No,
and then also like someone that won't just help.
Yeah.
Help around the house, like share the load or help the load be lighter. The load can be so heavy for women, and there's so many invisible things that we do. And it's literally about sharing that load. Like one of my love languages is acts of service. So it's like if I come downstairs and the kitchen is clean and you've done it all and you've done all the dishes and you've closed all the pantry doors, you better be ready to get your dick sucked. I mean, like literally, that is my love language. I don't need a red Ferrari. I can buy a red Ferrari. Just do the fucking dishes.
I'm obsessed.
I will suck your dick. It's not easy. Sorry. Don't you know?
It's facts.
It's facts. And even when we went on like a couples retreat, they're like, which guy has more sex? The guy that drives the Ferrari, the red Ferrari, or the guy that helps out with his wife every night in the kitchen? In the kitchen was the answer.
In
the kitchen. And Orlando knows all that. And he hears me, and he meets me there now.
He does the dishes. Yeah. Ladies.
I mean, well, we
Listen
are
up.
fortunate to have a housekeeper, but on the
Yes.
weekends, he knows that like that's important.
It-
Boomba! Get a Roomba!
All of a sudden,
Choose your battles. Choose your battles.
Men listening, get a Roomba. You're gonna have so much more sex.
So much more sex.
The Roomba stock
When the
price.
toilet seat goes down by itself, so much more sex.
And this is what really, really, really annoys me, because can we please stop rewarding men for doing the bare minimum and acting like they're godlike because they're doing the bare minimum, if that. Okay, this is a complicated topic, so please bear with me as I try and explain all my thoughts. Don't just take one sentence out of context and think that's my whole thought, because there's layers of nuance to this, okay? I feel like I have to preface everything I say with this now, because the amount of comments I got recently are people just taking like one line and ignoring the next 5 minutes of me speaking and be like, I can't believe you think that. And I'm like, complicated topic. So I was super on board with her at first. This whole idea of talking about the invisible emotional work that women do, talking about the dual or triple burden that is there especially for mothers, saying men need to be stepping up and doing their fair share. Yes, absolutely brilliant. Love it. We love to see more people talking about that. That is something I'm completely on board with. And it is something that I've been talking about in my own videos recently. So if you've seen my It Starts With Us review video, there's a short discussion in there about this exact topic, and there's some book recommendations you can read if you want to go and find out more. I'll also leave those books linked in the video description of this video. Yeah, I think that's a brilliant and really, really important thing to talk about. But it's one thing to say men need to be doing their fair share, and another to assume that that just means doing the dishes when the housekeeper isn't around and acting like that is shocking and never been done before.
Talented, brilliant, incredible, amazing, show-stopping, spectacular, never the same, totally unique, completely not ever been done before.
And somehow him going above and beyond. Is that not just the bare minimum of what you can expect with another adult that you live with? Should that not be the bare minimum? Am I going crazy? Like, can we just not act like this is something that makes him the best man in the world? That's just being an adult. And I'm not saying don't be grateful when your partner helps out around the house. I'm not saying don't be grateful when someone is sharing the workload with you. Absolutely do. But let's not act like he's just giving you a kidney, you know? And then, of course, it's taken even further with this whole idea of, like, rewarding basic, decent behavior with sex. Like, again, complicated issue. On the one hand, I get it. If you're happier in your life, you feel more supported in your relationship, you're going to be more attracted to your partner and you're going to want more sex with them. That makes perfect sense. But framing it as transactional in terms of you do the dishes and I'll do this sexual thing for you, it's just frustrating, especially when it's like, you do the bare minimum of being an adult and I'll reward you with sex. Can we not? It's like giving men a medal for just not being sexist pigs when that should be the baseline of what they're doing anyway. And I have to ask, does it work the other way around as well? Does he go down on you every time you change a nappy or hoover the living room? Does he screech on podcasts about, oh my god, this one time she mopped the floor, so I'm... No, I don't think he does. She's still framing it as him doing something extraordinary and being rewarded for it instead of what it should be, which is acknowledging you're both adults, you should both be taking care of your home, you should both be grateful for what the other person is doing, and you're both attracted to each other, so you have a healthy sex life, which you both enjoy. That's the healthy way to look at it, not this weird sexist, transactional, whatever. This mindset that Katy has and is presenting, and where like the both of them are like, and with the way both of them are acting, like, I don't think it's hyperbolic to say they are setting feminism back by several decades. Then some of the other clips that just annoyed me on a personal level, and this is just me personally feeling like this, but she kept going on about how there's no greater love than what you'll have for a child, and she uses these old cliches of like, oh, you think you knew love from XYZ? Just wait till you have a child, it's entirely different. And I don't have the patience to deal with that kind of nonsense. You know, I've spoken about it before. I feel like it's great that her kid does that for her, and it's great that she feels that way and she's not afraid to speak about how she feels. But this idea of like suggesting that happens to everyone and just wait till you have a kid of your own, it's very narrow-minded. It's very frustrating. Not everyone has that, and not everyone wants that, and not everyone will. You know what I mean. Frustrates me. The other thing I hate is all her kind of spiritual nonsense that doesn't actually mean anything. So she talks a lot about angel numbers, cleaning crystals to manifest a man. I can't. There's a lot of nonsense about divine energy and feminine divine energy, and do not like it personally. It's not a big deal. It's just not for me. That's all. There is good stuff in here too, though. She talks about always working on yourself, always trying to improve yourself, being grateful for what you have in life, understanding that success comes in peaks and troughs. Love that, especially the peaks and troughs thing. I think that's a really healthy way to look at things, like especially in creative jobs. Like I know on YouTube, I have peaks and troughs all the time. I'm in a little bit of a trough at the minute, and it's okay because I know it's gonna work its way out of it. It happens. I've been doing this for 5-6 years now, something like that, and yeah, you get ups and downs all the time. All you need to do is like look at your views and you're like, whoop. Always some of the peaks are higher than others, some of the troughs are lower than others, but you've just got to kind of like go with it and keep working with it, and as long as you're enjoying it, just keep going. It's fine. I think it can be very easy in this job, and I see some other YouTubers I know getting like this, where they hit their first trough, or they hit, you know, a regular trough as you do, and they think this is the end of the world, this is it, this is terrible, everything is going to crap, I need to quit, I need to do this, I need this, or they go into panic mode and they start like, you know, producing more content that's crappy quality, or they start spiraling, and it's not going to help. You just need to be sensible with like your finances and your work and stuff like that when you're in your peaks, and that can help you ride out the troughs, you know? Nothing stays stable forever. Nothing's always going to have an upward trajectory. You're always up and down. And it was very nice to see Katy acknowledging this and knowing that this happens. And I don't know, the optimistic part of me wants to be like, this is just a trough for Katy. She's going to realize that the music is terrible and it has a terrible message and it's pretty sexist and she's working with terrible people. It's just a trough. She's going to learn from it. She's going to come out of it and be better. But I also don't know how long that's going to take. And it's worrying. And then finally, in the very last 5 minutes of the podcast, Alex decides to bring up a discussion on Katy's new album and new music. And it's very rushed. I wish there was more to it. I wish there'd been less of the divine feminine nonsense, less of the crystals and manifesting, and more about this. Because I think this is what people are actually interested in. This is what I'm interested in. This is where I think we could have had some really good discussions. So one of the things is that Katy says this.
I always wanted to make a record like this. There's a lot of kind of dance, pop, rhythmic, I would say. I really wanted to make a record that was celebratory, full of love, light, joy, hope, and BPM, because get out of your head, get into your body, get into your heart, dance, sweat out those toxins, feel yourself, like embrace your sexuality, like find your feminine divine, all of that.
And you thought working with an alleged rapist was the way to do that? I'll say it again. It's just the rules. You can't say to people that you're all about embracing your sexuality and encouraging other people to embrace their sexuality while working with an alleged rapist. They're just the rules of the world. I don't make the rules. I'm just telling it how it is. That's not how it works. There are not many objective things in this world, but that is one of them. The actual Dr. Luke bit lasts no more than 90 seconds, and it's just Katy dodging the question continually. Listen to this, it's so frustrating.
I do want to ask you about one collaborator in particular. I know a lot of people have expressed disappointment and were really upset that you decided to involve Dr. Luke on this album. Why did you choose to work with him?
Look, I understand that it started a lot of conversations, and he was one of many collaborators that I collaborated with. But the reality is it comes from me. The truth is I wrote these songs from my experience of my whole life going through this metamorphosis. And he was one of the people to help facilitate all that, one of the writers, one of the producers. And I am speaking from my own experience. Like when I speak about Woman's World, I speak about feeling so empowered now as a mother, as a woman, giving birth, creating life, creating another set of organs, a brain, a heart. I created a whole ass heart and I did it and I'm still doing it and I'm still a matriarch and feeling really grounded in that. That's where I'm speaking from. Yeah. And so I created all of this with several different collaborators, people that I've collaborated with from the past, from Teenage Dream era, all of that.
So on the one hand, she's completely understating how much influence he had on this record, being, oh, he's just one of many people. Remember, he is, but he's also one of the most well-known. He's I want to say the producer? Fact check me on that, please. He's the producer, so he is one of the most influential people. And if he's just one of many, then why didn't you replace him? Like, surely he was that replaceable. He should have been. And again, you can't deflect by being like, oh, and anyway, the record isn't about him. It's about feeling so empowered. It's about... Do you think his victims feel empowered? Do you really think that it's a woman's world when his women victims have to turn on the radio and hear his music repeatedly? Do you really think it's a woman's world when his victims have to watch other women promoting him like he's just any other collaborator? He's not that bad. And the other question I have to ask, and I wish someone had asked her, is like, knowing all the allegations against him, did you not feel scared to work with him, to be around him? Because I would have. I wouldn't want to be working that closely with someone who's allegedly done that stuff, you know? Again, you can't talk about empowering women while working with an alleged rapist. And that is where the podcast just ends really, really abruptly. And the last part felt really rushed. And I don't know if it's because they were running out of time or because the conversation turned to this and neither of them really wanted to dig into the difficult stuff that much. Maybe Katy's PR people were like, let's get her out of here. Maybe the interviewer was just like, these are tough questions, I don't know how to handle them, let's wrap it up. I don't know, but it was really, really frustrating to see. These are things that I think, as an audience, we want answers about, as consumers of her music, as fans of her music, because I absolutely did consider myself a fan before all this. Like, these are things that we want answers to, that we want her to explain herself about. If she'd said something like, oh, he has this creative vision that only he could give me, and only he could do this, and only he knew how to get this, this, and this, then it wouldn't excuse her working with him, but it would explain it. But instead, her just being like, oh, he's just one of many, don't worry about him. If he's so inconsequential, then why not get rid of him and work with someone else who isn't an alleged rapist? It just frustrates me. So anyway, there you go. All this to say, I don't believe Katy Perry is a feminist, and I find her very frustrating at the minute, and I hope she does better, but at this point I don't have a huge amount of hope. But yeah, there we go. I just needed to do something a little less high stakes today, a little less serious, a little more, let's just talk about a singer doing something a bit silly and frustrating, you know? But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. This isn't really that, well, I say it isn't really that deep. If I was Kesha, I would be heartbroken by this. So it is that deep to someone like her. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching. I appreciate you, and thank you all for your support recently while I've been going through some stuff, and I'm still going through it. And yeah, I appreciate it a lot. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.